Mr. President.
The senator from Pennsylvania.
Mr. President, we're making history today in the Senate because this is the first global warming bill that has reached the floor for a full debate and vote. Congress has in the past, as we know, considered symbolic global warming legislation. But this is the first time that we're working on the details, how to create a national policy to slow, stop, and reverse the catastrophic global warming that we see across the world. And at the same time, this legislation and this debate could not be more important to our economy and our national security. This bill is very simple. There's a lot of complexity to it, obviously, but at its core, it's very simple. It's about creating jobs, first of all. It's about protecting God's creation, and it's also about enhancing our national security and indeed the world's security. It's not a perfect bill, but it's a good bill on which to build a national program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I do want to commend several members of the Senate, Senators Lieberman and Warner, Senator Boxer, and so many others who have worked so many years on this legislation, and especially worked in the last year, in the last 6 months, to bring this to where we are today. These senators, with help from other members of the United States Senate, have crafted a bill that includes all of the major policy issues that we must address: the cost to American families, job creation, worker protection, focusing on developing nations that will soon be the largest emitters of carbon, and keeping America competitive internationally. This bill also, at its core, recognizes and celebrates the best of the American spirit. We're confronting challenges in this bill, no doubt about that, but we're confronting challenges with American innovation, American ingenuity, and the can-do spirit of the American people, the skill of the American people, leading the world in confronting a difficult challenge. So I think that's something we should recognize, that this is a good opportunity for the American people not only to confront the crisis of global warming, but also to create jobs, to build a stronger economy, to reduce our dependence on foreign oil, and to do something very significant on the question of what happens to our planet. Now, the authors of this bill have worked to include a number of things that are important to me, especially a program in this bill that is critical to the security of American workers, the Climate Change Workers Assistance Program. In short, what this program will do is make sure that workers who are adversely affected will have wages, they will have health care benefits, and they will have the intensive training that they need to make the transition that will happen to some of our workers. This program will also provide a link between creating new manufacturing jobs of the future and helping transition to those new jobs of the future over time. This program is also a safety net intended to give American families peace of mind that they will not be left behind as we build a new economy with these new jobs. And that's the key point. Americans have called on us to take action and to prevent global warming. And they're willing to do a lot of the hard work to implement a national program to secure our collective future. And together we can do this. We know we can do this. America has always been able to confront difficult challenges, whether that challenge was a depression or a world war or any challenge presented to us. We can meet those challenges just like we're meeting the challenge that is global warming. We can stop global warming at the same time that we create a robust new economy that will provide good jobs for our families. Now, there's a lot of talk about costs of this bill, and there's no question that there are costs. But I also worry about the cost to our families. All of us worry about that. People are working so hard just to make ends meet. This bill contains programs to directly address these concerns, including a paid-for tax policy to return money to consumers to offset increased costs and special assistance for states like Pennsylvania, my home state, that rely on manufacturing and coal as a major part of their economy. But to this discussion of cost, I want to add something that opponents of this bill don't talk much about: the cost of inaction, the cost of doing nothing, which many in this chamber apparently believe that we should do. Do nothing, hope that it gets better, and talk about it and talk about it and do nothing and wait for another day. While there's certainly a cost to implementing this legislation, there's also a cost if we sit back and do nothing. Not only will it'll be more expensive to address global warming the longer we wait, we can expect even greater costs in terms of major storms and weather events, increased wildfires, loss of food crops, so many things that we're seeing playing out right before our eyes today in the world. Just last week, a report commissioned by the United States Department of Agriculture acknowledged the impact that global warming could have on crop disasters. We already know what happened when grain crops fail due to drought and flooding in different parts of the globe. It's happening right now. Lack of crops and increased cost of staples like wheat and rice are causing food riots in some countries. By one estimate, 1/5 of the world's nations are at a food insecurity situation right now as we speak. So this is not just a humanitarian crisis for those people and their countries. This is also a national and international security threat. That threat being food insecurity caused by a number of events and causes, but especially the challenge that we have of global warming, because that's contributing to that food insecurity. Now, to sit back and do nothing about global warming when we see this path ahead of us and have heard the warnings from scientists all over the world would be not just the wrong policy. To do nothing on global warming would, in fact, in my judgment, be immoral. So I support the Climate Security Act, and I'll vote in favor of its passage. Before I give up the floor, I've heard a lot of discussion the last day or so from people criticizing this legislation about a number of parts of the bill they don't like. But one of the things they keep pointing to is gas prices. And Senator Boxer and others have used the chart that talks about the price increase of gasoline since President Bush has been in office, an exorbitant increase in the cost of gasoline. But I have to say, I'd have to ask my friends on the other side of the aisle who keep talking about this bill increasing gas prices. Frankly, it won't do that. Over time, we know from some of the data that's been presented that this will, in fact, bring down the cost of gasoline. But let's just say that they're really concerned about this part of the legislation. Let's just say that they're trying to make their point about gas prices. If they're so concerned about gas prices today, why don't they support, as we've tried to push on this side of the aisle, strategies to bring down that cost, or to, at a minimum, to provide some measure of relief to our families? How about a windfall profits tax? People are really worried about gasoline prices. Why don't the critics of the bill support that? Why don't the critics of the bill, if they're so worried about families and gas prices, and not only support a windfall profits tax, but support measures that we have introduced already, and I hope we can have a vote on this, to focus on excessive speculation that's in the market right now. So there's a lot we can do right now to bring down the cost of gasoline, or at least try, but it seems that the other side of the aisle wants to talk about bringing gas prices down and don't want to do it. And I think that this Climate Security Act is one way not only to deal with our energy challenges, but to do our best to protect God's creation, to enhance our national security, and to create lots and lots of jobs for our families and for our future. Mr. President, I yield the floor.